Hi, I'm Dr. Bruce Chalmer. How can you forgive when you've been badly hurt? And why should you forgive anyway? Over the years, I've worked with many people who have been badly hurt. Some people seem to hold on to the bitterness and anger for years. But I've met many people who've been able to forgive. The woman who forgave her father who brutally abused her as a child. The father who forgave his son who stole from him, lied to him and about him, and assaulted him. The man who forgave the drunk driver who killed his daughter. And not uncommonly, people who forgave their spouses for cheating on them. What is it about these people that lets them forgive the most horrible wrongs? And are they crazy or in denial or weak-minded? In this video, I'll talk about what forgiveness is and why it's a part of your healing. I'll talk about when you are ready to forgive, and I'll talk about whom you need to forgive and why. Because it turns out that those people who are capable of forgiving aren't crazy at all. They've found a path to emotional freedom. So, what do we mean by forgiveness? Forgiveness means letting go of the bitterness, the resentment, the anger, the thoughts of revenge. It means letting go of the pain that you've been carrying after you've been hurt. When you've forgiven, you know it because when you're reminded of the hurt, you remain at peace. You can think about the hurt with compassion for yourself, for people who've been similarly hurt, and even for those who hurt you. You won't excuse or justify or minimize the wrong that was done to you, but you'll understand it with a mature perspective. And when you've forgiven, you can even find a sense of gratitude when you think about the hurt. Gratitude that you survived, that you learned from the experience, and that your spirit is now free of it. That's what you need to forgive. That's why you need to forgive. You need to forgive because forgiveness is freedom. But what if you're not ready to forgive? Well, you might not be ready to forgive yet. If thinking about the hurt is still an emergency to your body and mind, you're not ready to forgive. Check out my videos about healing from trauma. You might still have some work to do before you can begin to forgive. And of course, you're the only one who can determine when you're ready to forgive. Family, friends, and therapists may all mean well by urging you to forgive since they see the pain you're in, but only you can do it, and you can't do it before you're ready. In particular, someone who hurt you can't determine when you're ready to forgive, much as they might wish to. Of course, they want you to forgive them, and your relationship may depend on it. It's natural that they want forgiveness from you, but you can only forgive when you're ready. So how will you know you're ready? You know you're ready to forgive when you realize that the pain you're hanging on to is your own. It no longer has anything to do with what anyone else did or didn't do. You're ready to forgive someone when it's no longer about them. It's about you. Forgiveness is about you. That's the key to being ready and able to forgive. That's a tricky concept at first, the idea that forgiveness is about you, not someone else. What it implies might surprise you. It means, for example, that you can forgive someone you don't trust. Someone, that is, who might hurt you again if you let them. Forgiving such a person doesn't mean you'll hang around with them. On the contrary, if you think someone is still dangerous, don't be with them. I know a woman who forgave her ex-husband who was violent towards her and her children. She was under no illusions that it was safe to be around him. She still maintained a restraining order and exercised caution if she was somewhere he might be. Forgiving him didn't mean she trusted him or that she forgot what he had done. Notice that forgiving does not mean forgetting, if forgetting would make you stupid. But forgiving meant she wasn't dragging around useless anger anymore. Forgiving him meant that she was free of the hurt he had caused in the past. This idea also means that you can forgive someone who hasn't apologized or even acknowledged what they did. It might be hard to trust someone who hasn't acknowledged what they did, so you might not be able to continue the relationship as it was, but you can still let go of the pain yourself. Forgiveness is about you, not them. Whether or not you receive an apology, forgiveness is up to you. Whether or not you continue the relationship, whether or not you trust the other person, when you forgive, you let go of the pain. So how do you get there? How did those people I mentioned manage to let go of the hurt so that they could move past the bitterness, even toward those who had done terrible things? You get there in 3 steps. Forgive yourself, forgive those who hurt you, and forgive God. So let's talk about each of those steps. To really forgive, to let go of the hurt, means you have to forgive yourself. Because when you're hurt, there's almost always part of it you blame yourself for, whether it's reasonable or not. Of course, sometimes your self-blame is justified. Sometimes you come to realize that you also hurt the person who hurt you, that it's not all one way. And maybe you need to face that courageously get past the shame, forgive yourself, and then offer an apology for what you did. But sometimes you might blame yourself, even when you didn't do anything wrong. If you were abused as a child, that awful feeling of self-blame is because the abuser forced it on you. You were told that it was your fault, that no one would believe you, that you're dirty or bad or worthless. Now, as an adult, you might know rationally that you were a child, that you were being overpowered and threatened, but still blame yourself emotionally for not simply ending it the way you might have been able to do as an adult. And worse, if you were abused by a parent or a close family member, you might have had mixed feelings about it. The pain and shame and fear were mixed with loyalty and even appreciation of the attention. If you feel that way, you're not alone. It's one of the most difficult and painful aspects of healing from childhood abuse, especially sexual abuse. It leaves a feeling of deep shame and guilt, and it takes enormous courage to face those feelings. But to heal, you need to forgive yourself. Fundamentally, forgiving yourself means recognizing that you did the best you could given who you were and what was happening. It's easy to look back on it and see what you might have done differently if you or the situation had been different. But forgiving yourself means accepting that you and the situation weren't different. It was what it was. When you can accept that, you can have compassion for who you were then. That's what it means to forgive yourself. And that leads to the second step, forgiving those who hurt you. Actually, this one is surprisingly simple once you've forgiven yourself. If you can accept it was what it was and get past the pain and regret for your own actions, it's not that much more of a step to accept the same about whoever hurt you. You don't have to justify what they did or approve of it or excuse it. To forgive, you just have to accept that they were who they were at that moment and it was what it was. You no longer have to wish it away. You can understand that people sometimes do bad things, and though you try, sometimes you can't prevent it. You realize that even perpetrators of horrible crimes are human. We all have that in common. That's what it means to forgive whoever hurt you. There's one more step in forgiveness. When you've been hurt badly, ultimately you need to forgive God. And if the idea of God is problematic for you, you especially need to forgive God. Why? Well, this isn't the place for a theological discourse, and I'm no theologian. But if you're not comfortable with God language, just think in terms of God as existence itself, with all of its apparent order and chaos. You need to forgive the fact that we exist as conscious beings with some amount of influence, some tantalizing sense that we can control our lives, and yet we still get hurt badly. You need to forgive the fact that we've developed moral and ethical values that make our relationships better and help us rise above our narrow interests, and yet we see good people get hurt and bad people get away with it. Even if you're an atheist, I suspect you often feel that, as Ricky Ricardo might have put it, God's got some splaining to do. However you understand God, ultimately, you need to forgive God. When you've forgiven God, you've accepted reality, not with dreary resignation, but with a sense that reality is right, even when it's painful, and even as you dedicate yourself to repairing it and healing the pain. And of course, when you've forgiven God, you'll understand what it means that God forgives you. Perhaps you're asking, but how do I begin to forgive myself or others or God? Where do I begin? Well, forgiveness is an act of faith, so what you need to develop is faith. I covered that topic in another video. Check it out. Forgive yourself, forgive who hurt you, and forgive God. It doesn't happen all at once, but when you forgive, you're free. I'm Dr. Bruce Chalmer. If you have topics you'd like me to address, drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you.